An unexpected arrival. The scent of warm yeast and spice drifted through Abernathy's bakery, a comforting shield against the frigid air. Silas Abernathy, a man hewn from sturdy oak and tanned like well-worn hide, navigated the familiar space with decades ingrained grace. He buffed the marble countertop, his strong hand surprisingly tender, and straightened the lavender sprig above the cash register. Elsie's touch, meant to soothe. He ached for Elsie, her sharp wit, unwavering spirit, and uncanny ability to coax life from simple dough. Glancing at the oven's clock, he noted Mrs. Gable's impending arrival. He'd vetted a dozen applicants, each more disappointing than the last, before choosing her. Impeccable references, ample experience. He needed reliability, someone to resurrect Elsie's magic in every baked creation. He needed dough, the rhythmic action a welcome balm. Flour dusted his rough hands, mapping years of toil. He imagined Mrs. Gable, a portly woman with a pragmatic air, expertly rolling pastry. He almost grinned. Almost. A tentative knock echoed, startling him from his thoughts. Drying his hands, he crossed to the door, a glimmer of expectation lighting his gray gaze. He swung it open, anticipating a mature woman, her face a roadmap of experience. Instead, a mere girl stood there, clutching a bundle in a faded quilt. Her eyes, a startling emerald, were wide with trepidation. "Mr. Abernathy," she breathed, her voice frail. He furrowed his brow. "Yes, and you are?" "Lily," she replied, swallowing hard. "Lily Bellwether." She shifted the bundle, and a soft whimper seeped out. His patience frayed. "Well, Miss Bellwether, what can I do for you?" "It's about Mrs. Gable," she began, her voice trembling slightly. She couldn't make it." Silas's eyebrows shot skyward. "Couldn't make it? What do you mean, couldn't make it?" "She was due this morning. I need bread on those shelves by noon." Lily recoiled at his sharp tone. "She had a fall, Mr. Abernathy. Slipped on the stairs. Broke her ankle. She asked me to come, to explain." He scrutinized her, his expression inscrutable. "And why would Mrs. Gable send you? You barely look old enough to manage a stove." Lily's chin quivered, but she held his gaze. "I've assisted her for years, Mr. Abernathy. I know her recipes, her methods." She paused, inhaling deeply. "Please, Mr. Abernathy, grant me a chance. Just one." Another whimper escaped the bundle, escalating into a cry. Lily gently rocked the infant, her eyes brimming with love and exhaustion. Silas's gaze softened microscopically. He noticed the shadows under Lily's eyes, the protective way she cradled the baby's head. He saw the desperation mirroring his own solitude. "And who's this?" he asked, his voice rougher than intended. "This is Daisy," Lily murmured, her tone tender as she gazed at the baby. "My daughter." Silence descended, heavy and still as unproofed dough. Silas stared at Lily, then at Daisy, then back again. A girl, barely a woman, with a child. This was not the seasoned cook he'd envisioned. I don't know, Miss Bellwether," he said, shaking his head. "I need a baker, not a daycare." "I can manage both, Mr. Abernathy," Lily pleaded. "Please, I need this job. We need it. I'll work harder than anyone. I'll learn. I promise you." Daisy's wails intensified, her tiny face flushing crimson. Lily bounced her softly, whispering reassurances. Silas sighed, the sound like escaping steam. He raked a hand through his thinning hair. Elsie would have known. Elsie would have seen the spark in this girl, the potential beneath the worry and weariness. He looked at Lily again, at the hope shimmering in her verdant eyes, at the tiny infant cradled in her arms. He thought of his desolate house, his silent bakery, his empty existence. "All right," he conceded, the word barely audible. "All right, Miss Bellwether. Start by grabbing that flour sack. Then tell me everything Mrs. Gable taught you about proper sourdough." Lily's face bloomed, a dazzling smile erasing her fatigue. "Thank you, Mr. Abernathy," she breathed, her voice overflowing with gratitude. "Thank you. You won't regret this." As Lily carefully settled Daisy in a makeshift nest fashioned from a flour bag and hurried to retrieve the sack, Silas watched, a flicker of something dormant. Hope igniting within him. Perhaps, just perhaps, this unexpected arrival wasn't such a misfortune after all. A chaotic first day. The aroma of burnt toast, acrid and sharp, stung Silas's nostrils. He coughed, waving a hand in front of his face as he entered the kitchen. Flour dusted every surface, clinging to the worn wooden counters like a fresh snowfall. Lily stood amidst the chaos, her face smeared with white, a singed piece of bread clutched in her hand. "Oh, Mr. Abernathy, I am so sorry," she exclaimed, her voice tight with mortification. "I thought I had the timing right, but—" She trailed off, gesturing helplessly at the offending toast. Daisy, strapped into a carrier perched precariously on a stack of cookbooks, let out a wail that pierced the smoky air. Lily winced. "And now she's upset too. I think she's hungry." Silas suppressed a sigh. This was not going according to plan. He'd envisioned a smooth transition, a baker seamlessly taking over Elsie's recipes, the comforting scent of sweet rolls filling the bakery once more. Instead, he had this. "Perhaps," he said, his voice carefully neutral, "you should tend to Daisy first. I can air out the kitchen." Lily looked immensely relieved. "Thank you. Just give me a moment." She unstrapped Daisy from the carrier, cradling her close. The baby, sensing her mother's nearness, quieted, her small fists unclenched. Lily began to hum a soft lullaby, her eyes fixed on Daisy's face. Silas watched, a strange feeling stirring within him. It wasn't pity exactly, but something akin to recognition. He, too, knew the desperate need to comfort, the overwhelming responsibility for another's well-being. He opened the windows, letting in a rush of cool morning air, and began wiping down the flour-covered counters. The next few hours were a comedy of errors. Lily attempted a batch of Elsie's famous apple scones, but misread the recipe, adding a full cup of salt instead of sugar. Daisy, after a brief respite, resumed her crying, demanding attention with relentless persistence. Silas found himself fetching water, rocking the carrier, and even, to his utter astonishment, attempting to change a diaper a task he quickly relinquished to Lily, confessing his complete ineptitude. The kitchen became a battleground of flour bombs, spilled milk, and burnt offerings. The usually stoic Silas found himself chuckling at Lily's increasingly flustered attempts to salvage the situation. There was a certain resilience to her, a refusal to give up despite the mounting disasters. I want to do this," she said, her voice thick with emotion as she surveyed a tray of blackened cookies. Daisy, finally asleep in her carrier, stirred slightly. "I need this. For Daisy. For me." Silas studied her, noticing the dark circles under her eyes, the determined set of her jaw. He saw not just a clumsy baker, but a young woman fighting for survival, clinging to hope with everything she had. "Elsie," he began, then stopped, clearing his throat. "My wife, she always said baking was about more than just following a recipe. It was about heart, about putting a little bit of yourself into every loaf." Lily looked at him, her eyes searching his. I think I understand." "Perhaps," Silas suggested, "we should start with something simple, something forgiving." He pulled out a well-worn cookbook, flipping through the pages until he found what he was looking for. Elsie's recipe for simple sugar cookies. Hardly a challenge, but a good place to begin again. He placed the book in front of Lily, pointing to the ingredients list. "I'll watch Daisy. You bake." Lily took a deep breath, a faint smile touching her lips. "Okay," she said, rolling up her sleeves. "Sugar cookies it is." The sugar cookies weren't perfect. Some were slightly misshapen, others a little too brown around the edges. But they were edible, and as Silas watched Lily carefully decorate them with pastel-colored sprinkles, a sense of something he hadn't felt in a long time began to bloom in his chest. It wasn't happiness, not yet, but it was possibility. Daisy woke up as the cookies cooled, and miraculously did not cry, but gurgled, reaching for one. Lily, smiling, broke off a tiny piece and offered it to her. "Easy, sweetheart," she said softly. Just a little taste. Silas watched them, the young mother and her child, surrounded by the wreckage of a chaotic first day. And he realized that perhaps, just perhaps, this wasn't the disaster he'd initially feared. Perhaps it was the beginning of something new, something unexpected, something hopeful. He picked up one of the slightly burnt cookies and bit into it. It was surprisingly good. Learning the ropes. The next morning, Lily arrived before dawn, Daisy strapped snugly to her chest in a carrier. Silas was already there, flour dusting his apron like a fresh snowfall. He gestured towards a clean workbench, a small mountain of ingredients laid out beside it. "We start simple," he said, his voice surprisingly gentle. "Biscuits." Elsie swore by them, said a good biscuit was the foundation of any decent bakery. He demonstrated, his large hands moving with surprising delicacy as he measured flour, baking powder, and salt. He showed Lily how to cut in the cold butter, explaining the importance of keeping it cold to create flaky layers. Daisy gurgled softly, seemingly mesmerized by the rhythmic movements. Lily tried to mimic him, but her hands felt clumsy and unsure. The butter melted too quickly under her warm touch, the dough becoming sticky and unmanageable. Silas watched patiently, offering quiet corrections. "Not too much," he'd say, guiding her hand. "Let the ingredients do the work. Don't force it." The first batch was a disaster. Flat, hard, and barely edible. Lily's cheeks burned with shame. Silas, however, simply nodded. "Try again," he said, pushing the ingredients closer. They worked in silence for a while, the only sounds the gentle hum of the refrigerator and Daisy's occasional coos. Lily focused, trying to channel Silas's calm precision. She remembered her grandmother's hands, kneading dough with a practiced ease, and tried to emulate that memory. Slowly, painstakingly, she began to improve. The dough became less sticky, the biscuits a little lighter, a little taller. Silas offered small, encouraging nods. By the third batch, they were almost acceptable. "That's it," he said, a hint of a smile playing on his lips. "You're getting the feel of it." He pulled out a worn, leather-bound notebook. "Elsie's biscuit recipe," he said, his voice softening. "She never let anyone else use it. Said it was her secret weapon." He hesitated, then pushed it towards Lily. "You can use it, but you have to promise to treat it with respect." Lily carefully took the notebook, her fingers tracing the faded ink of Elsie's handwriting. It was filled with notes and annotations, flour smudges, and coffee stains. It felt like holding a piece of Elsie herself. As the morning progressed, Silas shared more of Elsie's wisdom, little snippets of advice gleaned from years of baking. He told stories of her experiments, her triumphs, and her occasional failures. He spoke of her passion for baking, her ability to coax flavor from the simplest ingredients. He even shared how she learned to play the fiddle after they were married. He spoke of how she had always wanted children, but it was not to be. Lily looked at Daisy in her carrier, and a pang of sympathy shot through her. With each story, Lily felt a deeper connection to Elsie and a growing respect for Silas. He was still gruff and reserved, but beneath the surface, she sensed a profound grief and a deep well of kindness. Later, as the sun began to rise, casting long shadows across the bakery, Lily managed to produce a batch of biscuits that were almost perfect. Golden brown, flaky, and with a hint of sweetness. Silas took one, broke it open, and inhaled deeply. "Elsie would have been proud," he said quietly, his eyes glistening. Lily's heart swelled. It wasn't just about the biscuits, she realized. It was about honoring Elsie's memory, about proving herself capable, about providing for Daisy. Daisy stirred in her carrier, letting out a small cry. Lily reached for her, gently unstrapping her. "Hungry, little one," she murmured, offering her a bottle. Silas watched them, a strange mixture of sadness and something akin to hope flickering in his eyes. He cleared his throat. "Go on," he said. "Take a break. You've earned it." Lily sat at one of the small tables, feeding Daisy and watching the morning light stream through the bakery windows. The smell of baking filled the air, a comforting aroma that felt like a promise of better things to come. She glanced over at Silas, who was meticulously cleaning the workbench, his movements almost reverent. She still had a long way to go, but for the first time since arriving in Havenwood, Lily felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, she could make this work. Maybe she could build a life for herself and Daisy, one biscuit at a time. Maybe Mr. Abernathy was not as scary as he seemed. Whispers in Meadow Creek. The market's vibrant clamor offered a temporary reprieve from the worries churning within Lily. Gurgling contently, Daisy, secure in her sling, clutched at Lily's blouse with a miniature fist. The air thrummed with the perfume of sun-ripened peaches, warm bread, and the grounding scent of unearthed roots. Carrots for Daisy's dinner and a sliver of cheddar for her own were the mission. While haggling with Farmer McGregor over a bunch of carrots, Lily detected a subtle shift in the atmosphere. A wave of muted murmuring spread, head swiveling, eyes trailing her like unwanted company. She struggled to disregard it, concentrating on the transaction, yet the weight of their scrutiny was undeniable. "Good carrots, miss," McGregor muttered, his usual booming voice subdued, avoiding her gaze as he took her payment. Lily managed a strained smile. "Thank you, Mr. McGregor." Moving toward Mrs. Gable's cheese stand, a prickle of guilt surfaced. She was, in essence, filling the void left by Martha's accident, a constant, visible reminder of misfortune. But today, manning the stall was Mrs. Higgins, a woman whose tongue could curdle milk. Her lips were drawn into a permanent, disapproving line, and her eyes, magnified behind thick lenses, seemed to dissect Lily. "Just a bit of the sharp cheddar, please, Mrs. Higgins," Lily requested, striving for an even tone. Mrs. Higgins took her own good time slicing the cheese, the wire a thin, screeching song. "So," she began, her voice laced with a deceptive sweetness, "you're settling in up at Abernathy's, I hear tell." Lily offered a curt nod, studiously avoiding contact. "Mr. Abernathy has been very helpful." "Helpful," Mrs. Higgins echoed, drawing out the word with pointed emphasis. "That's one way to put it. Some might consider it unconventional." A dry snort escaped her, like brittle leaves skittering across stone. A young woman, a babe in arms, residing under the same roof as a lone widower. Tongues are wagging, dearie. A flush crept up Lily's neck. She hadn't anticipated this onslaught. Immersed in learning Elsie's recipes and tending to Daisy, she'd forgotten the ever-present scrutiny of a small community. "Mr. Abernathy was in need of assistance," Lily replied, her voice betraying her unease. "And I needed employment." Mrs. Higgins arched a disbelieving brow, the wrinkles around her eyes deepening into crevices. "Indeed, dearie, indeed. Still, impressions count, especially for a young woman, unattached in the world." She wrapped the cheese in parchment with a definitive snap. "That'll be 6 pence." Lily paid, her hand betraying a slight tremor. As she turned to go, she heard Mrs. Higgins' voice elevate slightly, cutting through the market's general din. "Imagine, Elsie barely cold in her grave, and Silas already." The rest was swallowed by the surrounding noise, but the insinuation resonated, heavy and sour. Lily hurried away, her pulse quickening. Daisy shifted in the sling, emitting a soft whimper. Gently stroking her back, Lily murmured reassurances. "It's all right, little one. Everything will be all right." But a knot of anxiety cinched tighter in her chest. She'd known small towns thrived on gossip, but she hadn't comprehended how swiftly whispers could transform into venom. Passing the butcher's, she overheard fragments of hushed conversation. "Living upstairs. Improper. Poor Elsie." She lowered her head, cradling Daisy closer. The festive atmosphere had soured, leaving a lingering, unpleasant aftertaste. Returning to the relative sanctuary of the bakery, the aroma of yeast and sugar, normally comforting, felt oppressive. She placed Daisy in her makeshift cradle, a lined basket of soft blankets, and retreated to the back room, needing a moment of respite. Leaning against the cool brick wall, she closed her eyes. Had she erred in coming here? Would the town's condemnation prove too much to bear? She pictured Mrs. Gable, confined to her bed, unable to work. She thought of Daisy, utterly dependent on her. Failure was not an option. Drawing a deep breath, she straightened her spine. She would disregard the whispering campaign. She would prove herself through her dedication, through her integrity. She would craft the most delectable biscuits Havenwood had ever encountered, and she would earn their respect. It wouldn't be easy, but she had Daisy to consider. Yet, even as she forged this silent resolution, a seed of doubt had taken root. Havenwood's veiled disapproval had found its target, and Lily realized she would have to fight fiercely to safeguard herself and her daughter from the judgments of a close-knit community. The health inspector's visit. The bell above the bakery door jingled, a sound that usually brought a smile to Silas's face. Today, however, it heralded a figure in a crisp, starched uniform, clipboard in hand, and a decidedly unimpressed expression on his face. "Abernathy's Bakery?" the man asked, his voice clipped and official. Silas, flour dusting his apron, swallowed hard. "Yes, sir. I'm Silas Abernathy, the owner. Is there a problem?" The man's gaze swept over the shop, lingering on Daisy, who was happily gumming a teething ring in her playpen tucked in a corner away from the ovens, before fixing on Lily, who was expertly shaping dough at the counter. "I'm Harold Perkins, from the Department of Health. I'm here to conduct an inspection." Silas's heart hammered against his ribs. An inspection. Now, of all times? Perkins didn't wait for an invitation. He strode past Silas, his eyes scanning every surface, every nook and cranny. He ran a gloved finger along a shelf, examining the minuscule amount of flour dust that clung to it. Lily paused in her work, her brow furrowed with concern. Daisy, sensing the shift in atmosphere, started a fuss. "And who is this?" Perkins asked, gesturing towards Lily with his pen. "This is Lily Bellwether, my assistant," Silas stammered, feeling the heat rise in his cheeks. Perkins raised an eyebrow. "Assistant? Handling food preparation? What are her qualifications?" Silas hesitated. Lily had been a godsend, a quick learner, and surprisingly adept at baking, but he couldn't exactly list desperation and willingness on a formal resume. She's been learning from me. I've been teaching her everything she needs to know." Perkins turned his attention to Lily. "And do you have any certificates? Any formal training in food handling and hygiene?" Lily's cheeks flushed a delicate pink. "No, sir, but I'm very careful. I always wash my hands thoroughly, and I make sure everything is clean." Perkins scribbled something on his clipboard. "And the baby?" He pointed at Daisy, who was now whimpering in earnest. "Is it standard practice to have an infant in a commercial kitchen?" She's well away from the food preparation areas," Silas interjected, his voice strained. "Lily keeps her clean and safe." Perkins remained unmoved. He continued his inspection, his gaze sharp and critical. He checked the temperature of the refrigerator, scrutinized the cleanliness of the ovens, and examined the labels on the ingredient containers with suspicion. He noted every perceived infraction on his clipboard: a slightly chipped countertop, a smudge of grease on the wall, a container of sugar that wasn't perfectly sealed. Daisy's whimpers escalated into full-blown cries. Lily, her face etched with worry, tried to soothe her, but the baby was inconsolable. The crying seemed to amplify Perkins's disapproval. "This is highly irregular, Mr. Abernathy," Perkins said, his voice cold. "The presence of an untrained individual handling food and an infant in the kitchen. These are serious violations. I received an anonymous complaint this morning regarding unsanitary conditions and unqualified staff." Silas felt a wave of despair wash over him. A complaint? Who would do that? Mrs. Higgins, perhaps? Or one of the other gossiping hens down at the market? "Sir, please," Silas pleaded, his voice trembling slightly. "Lily is a hard worker, and she's learning fast. And Daisy is no trouble. We keep her out of the way. Please, give us a chance to fix whatever's wrong. I can't afford to shut down. This bakery, it's all I have left." Perkins remained impassive. "I understand your situation, Mr. Abernathy, but I have a duty to uphold health and safety standards. I'm going to have to issue a warning. You have 1 week to rectify these issues. If I return and find them unaddressed, I'll be forced to close your establishment." He handed Silas a formal-looking document. Silas took it, his hands shaking. The words blurred before his eyes. Violation notice, immediate corrective action required, potential closure. Perkins turned to leave. "Good day, Mr. Abernathy. I trust you'll take this matter seriously." As the bell above the door jingled again, this time signaling Perkins's departure, Silas slumped against the counter, the weight of the world pressing down on him. Lily, tears welling in her eyes, cradled Daisy close. The aroma of baking bread, usually so comforting, now felt like a cruel mockery. The bakery, his legacy, his connection to Elsie, was on the brink of collapse, and it was all his fault. He'd been so desperate for help, so blinded by Lily's willingness, that he'd jeopardized everything. A perfect loaf. "It's not her fault," Silas insisted, his tone surprisingly stable despite the tremor betraying his anxiety. Harold Perkins, arms crossed in bureaucratic judgment, merely arched a brow. Sensing the strained air, Daisy stirred restlessly in Lily's embrace, a soft grumble threatening to bloom into a full-blown cry. "Mr. Abernathy," Perkins stated, his voice devoid of warmth, "regulations are clear. Novice personnel, infants, hardly foster a germ-free food prep environment." Silas closed the distance between them, a swirl of flour dusting the air around his weathered boots. "With respect, Mr. Perkins, this bakery transcends mere commerce. It's a legacy woven into the fabric of this town. And Lily," he indicated the young woman, now gently rocking Daisy, her face a study in apprehension and resolve, "is learning, brimming with enthusiasm. More importantly, she's breathed new life into this place." He hesitated, gathering himself. "We all deserve a second act, don't you agree?" Perkins remained impassive. "Sentiment won't leaven bread, Mr. Abernathy, nor will it satisfy a health inspector." He retrieved his notepad. 1 week, 7 days to remedy these infractions. Otherwise, the unspoken threat hung heavy. Silas nodded, his shoulders dipping slightly. "Understood." As Perkins turned to depart, Lily spoke, her voice ringing with unexpected strength. "Mr. Abernathy taught me sourdough from the ground up. I'll bake you a loaf, a flawless specimen. Then you can tell me it's inadequate." Perkins halted, back still turned. He paused, then pivoted, a spark of something akin to curiosity flickering in his gaze. "Very well. I shall return tomorrow at noon. 1 loaf. Your fate hangs in the balance." A sharp nod, and he was gone, the bell above the door tinkling with a mocking chime. The instant the door clicked shut, the color seemed to leach from Lily's face. She slumped into a chair, Daisy now whimpering quietly. "Oh, Silas," she breathed, "I'm so sorry. I've ruined everything." Silas knelt beside her, clasping her hand. "No, Lily, don't say that. You heard me. You've brought a vitality to this place, and you will bake that perfect loaf. I know it." He glanced at Daisy, her small features etched with worry. "I'll take her for a stroll. You concentrate on the bread." The next morning dawned under a cloak of gray skies. Lily arrived at the bakery before sunrise, the daunting task weighing heavily upon her. Silas had already begun, his movements economical and practiced. A reassuring smile touched his lips. "Remember everything I've shown you. The dough's texture, the water's temperature, the virtue of patience." He receded into the back, affording her the space to focus. Lily inhaled deeply and began. She combined flour and water, carefully kneading, feeling the dough transform under her touch. Punching it down, she allowed it to rise, the characteristic tang permeating the air. She channeled Silas' guidance, recalling his instructions, his gentle corrections. Daisy, secure in her carrier by the window, cooed contentedly, as if sensing her mother's unwavering focus. Hours melted away. Lily toiled with focused intensity, her brow furrowed in concentration. She shaped the loaf, its surface smooth and firm, and nestled it within the proofing basket. She observed its gradual expansion, anxiety yielding to nascent hope. Finally, the crucial moment arrived. She scored the loaf surface with a practiced hand, creating an intricate pattern and slid it into the searing oven. The heat kissed her face as she watched through the glass, the pallid dough morphing into a golden brown triumph. An intoxicating scent bloomed within the bakery, an orchestra of warm, yeasty notes harmonizing with the delicate sourness of sourdough. Silas emerged from the back, drawn by the captivating fragrance. He stood at Lily's side, his eyes mirroring the oven's radiant glow. Precisely at noon, Harold Perkins reappeared. He stood rigidly by the counter, his face an inscrutable mask. Lily, hands trembling ever so slightly, presented her creation. It was perfectly realized, its crusted deep, burnished hue, the score design exquisitely rendered. Perkins accepted the loaf, turning it over, scrutinizing every facet. He drew a knife and sliced a substantial piece. He lifted it to his nose, inhaling deeply. He closed his eyes momentarily, then slowly, deliberately took a bite. The silence in the bakery pressed down like a physical weight. Lily held her breath, her heart hammering against her ribs. Daisy, sensing the charged atmosphere, began to fuss in her carrier. Perkins chewed thoughtfully, his eyes still closed. At last, he opened them, a hint of surprise glinting within. He sampled another bite, and then another. He swallowed, cleared his throat, and addressed Lily. "This," he conceded, his voice surprisingly subdued, "is exceptional." He hesitated, then added, almost begrudgingly, "Perhaps room for refinement may exist. But yes, this is acceptable." He cleared his throat again. "I will amend my findings accordingly." He glanced at Silas. "You will, naturally, maintain strict adherence to all relevant regulations moving forward." Relief washed over Silas' face as he nodded. "Absolutely, Mr. Perkins. Thank you." Perkins offered a terse nod and turned to leave. As he neared the door, he paused, glanced back, and stated, almost as an afterthought, "The crust perfection." Then he was gone. Lily sank into a chair, tears welling in her eyes. "I did it," she whispered, all lacing her voice. "I actually did it." Silas embraced her, a gentle squeeze of her shoulder. "You did," he affirmed, his voice thick with emotion. "You baked a perfect loaf." He looked at Daisy, now gurgling with pleasure. "And you salvaged the bakery." Blossoming business. The morning after Inspector Perkins' grudging approval dawned bright and unusually warm for late October. Silas arrived at the bakery to find a line snaking down the block. He blinked, certain he was hallucinating. Had Mrs. Higgins finally won the lottery and promised free scones to the entire town? As he got closer, he could hear the buzz of conversation, snippets drifting on the crisp air, heard the sourdough's divine. Single mother, trying to make a go of it. Old Abernathy, giving her a chance. Silas unlocked the door, the familiar scent of yeast and sugar doing little to calm his racing heart. Inside, Lily was already bustling, Daisy strapped securely to her chest in a carrier, gurgling contentedly. Flour dusted Lily's cheeks and clung to her eyelashes, giving her an ethereal glow. "Silas, look," she exclaimed, gesturing to the line outside with a spatula. "They're actually here." He chuckled, a warm feeling spreading through his chest. "Looks like our reputation precedes us, Lily. Let's get baking." The day was a whirlwind. Silas managed the ovens, pulling out loaves and pastries in a constant rhythm. Lily handled the counter, her initial nervousness replaced by a newfound confidence. She chatted with customers, her genuine warmth and the adorable sight of Daisy peeking out from the carrier, charming even the most stoic townsfolk. Daisy, for her part, seemed to thrive on the attention, cooing and waving her tiny fists. By mid-afternoon, they were sold out of nearly everything. Silas leaned against the counter, wiping sweat from his brow. "I haven't seen a day like this in a long time." Lily beamed, her eyes sparkling. "We did it, Silas. We actually did it." The next few days followed a similar pattern. The line outside Abernathy's bakery became a fixture of the town, a testament to the power of second chances and the irresistible allure of freshly baked goods. Silas found himself working harder than he had in years. But it was a good kind of tired, the kind that came with purpose and a glimmer of hope. One afternoon, after the rush had subsided, Silas found Lily surrounded by bowls of brightly colored frosting and a half-finished cake. Daisy was napping peacefully in her bassinet in the corner. "What are you up to?" he asked, leaning closer. Lily grinned, holding up a piping bag filled with vibrant blue frosting. "I thought we could expand our offerings. Cakes. Birthday cakes, anniversary cakes, maybe even wedding cake someday." Silas raised an eyebrow. "Cake decorating, eh? That's a whole different ballgame." "I know," Lily admitted, "but I've been watching videos online, and I think I can do it. Besides," she added with a mischievous glint, "we need something to keep those customers coming back for more than just sourdough." She turned back to the cake, her brow furrowed in concentration as she carefully piped a delicate border of blue roses. Silas watched, mesmerized. He hadn't realized Lily possessed such artistic talent. The roses, though slightly uneven, were undeniably beautiful, a testament to her determination and innate creativity. Over the next few weeks, Lily dedicated her spare moments to perfecting her cake decorating skills. She experimented with different techniques, creating intricate floral designs, whimsical cartoon characters, and elegant geometric patterns. Silas provided gentle guidance, sharing tips he'd picked up from Martha over the years. But mostly he just watched, marveling at her progress. He remembered Martha's early attempts at cake decorating, the frosting smudged and the roses lopsided. But she had persevered, driven by a passion to create something beautiful. He saw that same passion in Lily, that same unwavering commitment to her craft. One Saturday, Lily presented Silas with her masterpiece, a three-tiered chocolate cake adorned with cascading sugar flowers in shades of pink, purple, and white. It was breathtaking, a far cry from her earlier, more tentative creations. "Well, Silas breathed, his voice thick with emotion. That's magnificent, Lily." Lily blushed, her cheeks flushed with pride. "Do you really think so?" "I know so," Silas replied, placing a hand on her shoulder. Martha would have been proud. He watched as a young couple entered the bakery, their eyes widening as they spotted the cake. They approached Lily, their voices filled with excitement. Is that for sale?" the woman asked. Lily smiled. "It could be." As the couple discussed wedding cake options with Lily, Silas stepped back, a wave of contentment washing over him. The bakery was bustling, filled with the aroma of freshly baked goods and the sound of happy chatter. He saw Lily, radiant and confident, her hands moving deftly as she sketched out design ideas for the couple. And in the corner, Daisy slept soundly, oblivious to the sweet success unfolding around her. Silas realized that Abernathy's Bakery wasn't just a business anymore. It was a sanctuary, a place where second chances were given, where dreams were nurtured, and where the sweet taste of hope filled the air. And he, along with Lily and little Daisy, were finally home, a threat to their family. The scent of yeast and sugar couldn't mask the bitter taste in Lily's mouth. She'd been humming along to the radio, carefully piping buttercream roses onto a vanilla cake when the postman had arrived. Usually, the sight of his blue uniform brought a flicker of excitement, perhaps a new catalog for cake decorating supplies or a postcard from her Aunt Carol. This time, the envelope felt heavy, ominous in her hand. It was crisp, official, bearing the letterhead of a law firm she didn't recognize. Inside, the words blurred before her eyes, each sentence a hammer blow to her carefully constructed piece. Her hands trembled so violently she nearly dropped the piping bag, smearing a perfect rose into a shapeless blob of sugary pink. "Lily, you all right?" Silas' voice cut through the fog in her mind. He was wiping flour from his hands, a concerned furrow etched between his brows. He'd been in the back, wrestling with a particularly stubborn batch of sourdough. She couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. All she could do was thrust the letter towards him, the paper crinkling in her white-knuckled grip. Silas took the letter, his expression shifting from concern to grim comprehension as he scanned the page. The kitchen fell silent, save for the rhythmic tick-tock of the grandfather clock in the corner and the soft gurgling of Daisy, who was happily gumming her teething ring in her playpen. That innocent sound only amplified the horror seizing Lily. He wants her. Lily finally choked out, her voice a raw whisper. Silas' jaw tightened. It appears so. He read the letter again, his gaze hardening. He's claiming you're an unfit mother, unable to provide a stable environment for Daisy. The word stung like acid. Unfit. It was the accusation that haunted her every waking moment, the fear that gnawed at her insides. She had worked so hard, sacrificed so much to prove everyone wrong. And now, here it was staring her in the face. But I'm not. Tears welled in her eyes, blurring her vision. I'm doing everything I can. We're happy here. Daisy's happy. She rushed to Daisy's side, scooping her up in a fierce embrace. Daisy, oblivious to the storm raging around her, rewarded her with a gummy smile. Silas gently placed a hand on Lily's shoulder. I know you are, Lily, and we won't let him take her. His voice was firm, resolute, a comforting anchor in the swirling chaos. But what can we do? Despair crept in her voice. He has money, influence. I have nothing. We have each other, Silas said, his gaze unwavering. And we have the truth. We'll fight this, Lily. We'll show them what kind of mother you are, what kind of life you've built for Daisy. He pulled out a chair for her and guided her to sit. He then busied himself making tea, the clinking of the kettle and the soft hiss of steam filling the silence. He handed her a mug, the warmth seeping into her cold hands. First, he said, his voice calm and measured, we need to find a lawyer. A good one. Someone who understands what we're up against. I don't have any money for a lawyer, Lily said, her voice laced with defeat. Don't worry about that, Silas said, his eyes twinkling. I'll take care of it. Consider it an investment in the future of Abernathy's bakery. He winked, trying to lighten the mood. Lily managed a weak smile. Thank you, Silas. I don't know what I would do without you. We're family, Lily, he said simply, and families stick together. They spent the next hour poring over the letter, dissecting every sentence, every phrase. Silas made notes, his brow furrowed in concentration. They discussed potential character witnesses, people who could attest to Lily's dedication and love for Daisy. Mrs. Higgins, who always peeked in to admire Daisy from the bakery doorway, and of course, Reverend Johnson. They'd even ask some of the regulars, the people who Lily had come to know and care about since coming to town. As the afternoon wore on, a plan began to take shape. It was daunting, overwhelming, but Lily felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. She wasn't alone. She had Silas. She had the bakery. She had a community that believed in her. And most importantly, she had Daisy. She looked down at her daughter, who was now fast asleep in her arms, her tiny chest rising and falling with each breath. A wave of fierce protectiveness washed over her. No one, not even Daisy's own grandfather, was going to take her baby away. She would fight with every ounce of strength she possessed. For Daisy, for herself, for their family. A family found. The letter felt like a lead weight nestled in Lily's apron, a constant, frigid reminder of the impending legal clash. Silas, ever the dynamo, orchestrated preparations with the skill of a seasoned field commander. Yet, this battle wouldn't involve culinary ingredients. It hinged on persuasive words and shaped perceptions. Mrs. Higgins, Silas began, his tone carefully measured as he offered the elderly woman a sheet of parchment. Would you consider penning a few lines regarding Lily's qualities? A fixture at the bakery for half a century. Mrs. Higgins peered over her spectacles. Qualities? That girl possesses more grit than most. Single-handedly raised that child, works tirelessly, and offers a smile to everyone, even when burdened. You tell that. That man, Lily is an exemplary mother. The very best. Lily's throat constricted. She dabbed at her eyes, striving for composure. The town's outpouring of goodwill felt like a comforting shawl against the encroaching chill of the custody suit. Farmers delivered baskets of produce. The butcher gifted cuts of meat for savory pies, and the children crafted colorful drawings of Daisy to adorn the bakery's windows. Each act, no matter how small, spoke to the vibrant community they'd cultivated, a fellowship that had now rallied to her defense. The day of the hearing arrived under a sky of drab pewter, echoing the unease twisting Lily's stomach. Daisy, sensing her mother's distress, whimpered and clung to Lily with unexpected tenacity. Silas, ever the pragmatist, had packed a satchel brimming with Daisy's cherished toys, soft blankets, and a seemingly inexhaustible supply of teething biscuits. The courtroom, a study in austere solemnity, buzzed with murmurs and the rustle of legal documents. Lily, seated beside Silas, felt diminished in the face of such formal proceedings. Across the aisle, the man she could barely recognize sat ramrod straight beside his legal counsel, his gaze a shard of ice directed her way. The attorney initiated the proceedings, detailing the reasons Daisy's father deemed Lily an unfit parent. Her youth, her precarious finances, her unconventional living situation. Each accusation landed like a stinging slap, eroding her resolve. Then it was Silas's turn. He rose, shoulders firm, and addressed the judge. He spoke not of legal doctrine or financial reports, but of Lily's unwavering dedication to Daisy, her resilience, and the palpable love that saturated every corner of their bakery haven. "This young woman," Silas declared, his voice thick with emotion, "entered my life when I was adrift, lost in a sea of sorrow. She brought light, warmth, and a renewed sense of purpose I thought I'd never rediscover. And little Daisy, she's more than Lily's daughter. She's become an integral part of this bakery, this community, this heart." Denying Lily custody of Daisy would be to shatter a family, a union forged not in blood, but in affection, respect, and shared aspirations. A family found. Silence descended upon the room. Even the opposing counsel appeared momentarily disarmed. Lily watched, tears blurring her vision, as Silas continued, his words painting a vibrant portrait of their existence in Harmony Creek. He recounted the laughter echoing through the bakery, shared meals, moments of quiet solace, and the steadfast encouragement they offered one another. The judge, a woman with empathetic eyes and a contemplative air, listened intently, her gaze fixed on Silas. After what felt like an eternity, she cleared her throat. Based on the evidence presented, she announced, her voice resonant and authoritative, and after thorough consideration of the child's well-being, this court rules in favor of the mother, Lily Bellwether. Custody of Daisy Bellwether is hereby awarded to Lily Bellwether. A wave of collective breath rippled through the courtroom. Lily was engulfed by a surge of relief, so intense it threatened to buckle her knees. She turned to Silas, his eyes reflecting pride, and embraced him fiercely. Back at the bakery, the celebration overflowed with joyful abandon. The fragrant warmth of freshly baked loaves mingled with the sweet tang of victory. Colorful ribbons adorned the walls, and balloons danced in the air. The townspeople gathered, their faces radiant with happiness, offering hugs and congratulations. Mrs. Higgins presented Lily with a lovingly hand-knitted blanket for Daisy, while Mr. Abernathy beamed with paternal pride. Daisy, secure in Lily's arms, cooed contentedly, unaware of the turmoil she had unwittingly ignited. Surveying the faces of her friends and neighbors, Lily understood that she had unearthed something truly extraordinary in Harmony Creek. She had discovered a family, a community, a sanctuary to call her own. The bakery was more than just a business. It was a refuge, a testament to the transformative power of love and belonging. And as she cradled Daisy close, she recognized that their future, though uncertain, shimmered with promise, hope, and the unwavering embrace of the family she had found.